Hello there YouTube, it is Noah, and today I'm going to be doing an unboxing and review of the Hori Fighting Commander for the Xbox One, Xbox 360, and PC. Essentially what this is a fight pad, which is something I've been wanting for a while now, because I like playing fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, and I can also use this for platforming games like Sonic and other games that require very minimal input that can be supplied for by a D-pad. So I wanted something that would work for me, that wasn't too expensive, and that had all the features that I needed. And so I came across this, which actually released quite recently. I believe May 31st, 2017 was the official release date on Amazon. And you could have pre-ordered up to that point, which I don't see a point in doing. It's going to be available day one, and it was. So anyways, I picked it up for about $40, which is not a bad deal. It is wired, and the cable is about 10 feet long, which is plenty of room, and you don't have to mess around with batteries because it's wired. So I had a few decisions to make for fight pads. I particularly didn't want a fighting stick because a fighting stick engages your hands, whereas a fighting pad engages more your fingers. And I like to be able to press all the buttons with my fingers and not have to move my hands. It's more of a personal preference, really. If you're more into fighting sticks, then you can buy one from Hori as well. But I'm more interested in fighting pads. So the instructions here are very, very limited. It tells you basic things about the fighting pad. And one of them is a little bit confusing, which I'll explain later in the video, and that is remapping the buttons. Yes, the buttons are remappable and is a little bit confusing, but I will be going over that. So, like I was saying, I had a few options for fight pads. There is this one, which is compatible with Xbox 360, the One, and PC, Windows of course. It might work with Mac, and I've heard from some people it works with Android, which I'm uncertain if it works with either. But first thing I noticed when I pulled this out of the box was it's very light, but not a cheap feeling light. Like, it doesn't feel cheap, but it is pretty light, like compared to an Xbox One controller. And that might be because the rumblers, there's no rumblers in this, so that might take out some of the weight, and some of the other control functions like the analog sticks are not present in this either. This does have all the mappable functions of a regular Xbox One controller, aside from an assign button, the two missing analog sticks, and there is a switch that you can use to switch between D-pad input and left stick input. So basically, if some games won't recognize the D-pad as a D-pad, you can flip that switch and it'll recognize it as a thumbstick, which is kind of weird. But all the buttons feel very, very nice. There's a very short travel distance, and I like that because you're able to press the buttons faster. This D-pad is the nicest D-pad I've ever used before. I've used Wii D-pad, PS2 D-pad, Xbox 360 D-pad, Xbox One D-pad, and all of them feel nothing compared to this one. It's very nice, and it just works, really. So, anyways, like I was saying before, there was pretty much three options I had. There was the Mortal Kombat Fight Pad, which was licensed by Mortal Kombat for the Xbox One and 360, and that one, a lot of reviewers said it was cheap and it broke, and a lot more people were nudging towards the PS4 and PS3 Hori Fighting Commander, which is basically this version except PS3 and PS4 version. I will leave a link for that one in the description as well. But basically, I didn't want that because I don't have a PS3 or a PS4 and I don't plan on having one. So I was basically stuck between those three options, including this one. And I decided to go with this one because I didn't want the Mortal Kombat one because I heard it was too cheap or whatever. And so I decided to go for this one, and I'm very glad I did. It just works really well, and it just performs a lot better than you would expect for a, seemingly not name brand company. But props out to Hori because this fight pad is very well constructed. It performs very well in games, and I hope it'll last a long time. I don't believe there's any warranty with it, so I'll kind of be disappointed if it breaks. But I don't expect it to. It does feel very quality. One thing I would like to mention that is just totally odd and might not matter to some of you, but actually two things. First thing is, if you smell the area where the cord comes out, and this kind of took me by surprise because you could smell it from a little distance, it smells like, I don't know how to describe the smell. If you've ever smelled the smell of cheap electronics, it smells like that, but it doesn't feel cheap. So it just leads me to believe some kind of product they use to adhere the electronics, or some kind of product they use to coat the electronics, something like that is emitting the smell possibly, and it just doesn't really smell pleasant and takes away from the overall experience. Totally nitpicky here, but that might bother some people, and I just wanted to mention it. It does kind of bother me. And the other thing which I found is really strange is where the LED, somewhere in between where the white LED, the red LED, and the Xbox button, it gets very hot during games. Like, not super hot, but like if you ever felt an LED light bulb, it gets about as hot as that. And I think that might be because of the LED, but I'm not 100% sure because it's a really small one. It shouldn't really be getting that hot. But I would also like to mention that for anybody who is concerned. And that ends pretty much the portion of my review. Stick around if you want to hear the how to remap buttons. But if that's all you're here for, then thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one. And leave a comment in the comments section if you have any questions about this video or any other video. Now on to assigning buttons. Now, this is where things might get confusing. Assigning buttons is possible, and you can assign as many buttons as you want to other buttons on this fight pad, but it is a little bit confusing, and that's why I'll be going over that. So to assign a button, you basically hold down the assign button until a red light on the controller starts flashing slowly. Now you're ready to assign the button. So you're going to pick the button that you want to be assigned to. So essentially, if you want to assign the A button to the B button, what you're going to do is hold down the assign button till the red light starts blinking slowly, and then once it starts blinking slowly, press the B button. So basically, like I said, it's kind of backwards. You're going to need to map the function you want to map it to, you need to press it in backwards order. So if you're mapping A to B, you press the B button, and then the red light will start blinking faster, and that's when you press the A button. Now you've successfully mapped the A button to the B button, but now that doesn't switch the functions. Meaning, if you press A, it'll do the A button in games, but if you press B, it will also do the A button in games. So if you want to switch the buttons so that each one is doing the opposite or the other function, what you're going to need to do is to repeat the process, except flipped. So you're going to hold down the assign button, slow red light, you're going to press A, and then the red light will start flashing fast, and then you'll press B. Now you've successfully mapped the A and B buttons to opposite positions. So what I did, because the controller layout is kind of weird, was I mapped the trigger and the bumpers so that the left trigger is on the left, the right trigger is on the right, and the left bumper's on the left and the right bumper's on the right, just like how an Xbox One controller would be, because for some reason they have a more odd layout where it's left trigger and left bumper on the right trigger and right bumper side, and then where the left trigger and the left bumper would be, it's the right stick and the left stick button, which is kind of weird. No idea why they did that, but thankfully they have the mapping built into the controller, so I remapped it so it's like the Xbox One controller, and the two buttons that are off to the right of the B and the Y buttons, basically I made those the right stick and the left stick buttons. That way, it's essentially the same layout as a regular Xbox One controller, aside from it having no analog sticks, and the right stick and the left stick buttons are mapped to the right of the B and Y buttons. The final thing that I'd like to mention is that if you want to reset all of the assignments for the buttons, to basically make it back to the factory reset, all the buttons are what they say they are layout, what you're going to do is hold down the assign button until the red light starts flashing slowly, then press the Xbox guide button, and then it will reset everything to factory default. So that, I know that was a little bit confusing, and sorry if I confused you more by trying to explain it, but I did the best that I could. So if you have any other questions, just leave them in the comments, like I said, and I will try to answer them as soon as I can. But thank you guys for watching again, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.